Hi, welcome to Makers Bar. I'm Akshata Shetty. We are on a mission to create and raise a million leaders. And today we have Michal Takac from Dimensional Lab joining us, and he's here to share his story. Welcome, Michal. Hope everything is going okay with you, and I'm really excited to hear about you and how you started your company.
Hi, Akshata. Thank you for having me here on the podcast. Really excited about it.
Yeah, same here. So I have to say, you're my first Slovakian guest. So I'm really, really excited. And I'm really excited about your work as well. So tell us a little bit about your early career and how you're doing, what you're doing, as in how did you start this company and what made you start this company? So tell us a little bit about your background and connect all the dots for us in terms of your story.
Right. Okay. So, actually, I was involved with, and I'm actually still involved in software engineering for past 13 years
Okay.
ish. So I was a web developer previously. Then I went into designing some hardware, but I worked through different startups previously. Also was part of a team that's like it's like a startup team to hire, and you could
Mhm.
can call it now. Um, then also previously, I founded three startups with different areas. One was in like building an application for skateboarders for actually the judges of skateboarding events, so you can do it
Uh-huh.
in real time, and a bunch of other smaller stuff. Then I was very interested in VR and AR, or this whole human-computer interaction stuff. So how to design for interactivity, and how to design representations to enhance cognitive abilities in humans.
Mhm.
Uh, that transformed into my realization that you can use or build VR applications on the web. So I was involved in different web VR communities. Uh, I also worked for Decentraland, which is a virtual world on top of blockchain.
Yeah.
So I kind of dubbed in crypto here and there. Um, and then since this love for new types of media, you can say VR and AR, I try to build new tools for how you teach mathematics at university. So this actually transformed into a full-fledged project called Math World VR.
Mhm.
I also won some falling walls lab, or something like that here in Slovakia with that project, and it was actually mentioned at Google I/O once.
Mhm.
So pretty interesting. But then that experience of building such project, prompted me to ask more questions, like what is next, how far we can uh, use this new type of VR and AR media to build different tools for engineers, let's say, or physicists. So that thinking kind of got me into PhD course that was on um, and different things, but I tried to transform the theme into using the new type of media like VR and AR to build tooling for engineers to do simulations.
Mhm.
And the goal was to speed up simulations to a point that you can actually work with them in real time. So you don't have to wait a long time until the simulation finishes and then you post process something, but
Mhm.
you dub into it, dub with the simulation while it is running. So
Mhm.
this is kind of high level overview of how I got from web developer into building um, simulation tools right now with the company.
Wow. So I was in, I mean, energy and chemical industry is relatively new for me because I've not worked in an industry like that. And I last week I was in GTC, and all I was watching was people writing simulation softwares, right, or building models on simulation softwares. So I was thinking about you, and I was like, oh my god, next week I'm going to talk to him. So that's going to be kind of really interesting. So, anyways, so that's kind of interesting. So tell me what now, since we are talking about it, what your company does. And I see that your URL is .org. So I am just curious, like what your main product lines are, and what was the motivation to have like a .org, uh, company. So curious about your thoughts on that, Michal.
Yeah. So, the thinking behind .org was obviously like I want to build tools for engineers to leverage new ways of how you can do simulations.
Mhm.
And my thinking was like maybe these would be open source tools. So having
Mhm.
.org domain would be much better for a product line that we want to work on.
Uh-huh.
But also me coming from the academia, from research in this area,
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of build a research team within the organization. Then I realized that it's not just like nice to have, but it's something that we must have
Mhm.
for us to be able to build such thing.
Yeah.
But then it was also just about that it was available. So .com was not available, so I went with .org. Um, but yeah, the company itself is focused on building next generation software for
Yeah.
physical simulation.
Yeah.
And while I was involved, or while I was working on my PhD, I tried different approaches to speed up simulations. This is the first step that we need to get to actually uh, work in real time with simulations.
Yeah.
And while I was finishing my PhD, I stumbled upon a paper from DeepMind,
Okay.
Google DeepMind. And they showed that you can use AI for speeding up simulations, physics simulations by more than 1,000 times, even up to 10,000 times. So I was thinking like, okay, this is much different league than where I was playing while I was working on my PhD.
Yeah.
So then I realized like, okay, this has a potential to be commercialized. So I don't have
Yeah.
to continue researching things. I can already build tooling around that and bringing this to market. Because at
Mhm.
that time it was 2021. Like everybody I asked who were using some other simulation software, they were like,
Yeah.
no, I would never use AI for what I am working on. Like, no,
Yeah.
there is no way that this like black box data driven thing would be used to I don't know, build some prototype of biomedical device, let's say.
Yeah.
Like, no, a no go. So um, I realized that we would need to do a lot of education
Mhm.
alongside building a product,
Yeah.
a simulation tool or a platform.
Yeah.
So it kind of had to have this educational part ingrained within it.
Mhm.
And this is how we structured the
Mhm.
platform itself. So we had to build a full end-to-end platform from the start of the process of the workflow of how
Mhm.
you create such types of specific models for simulations, because at the
Yeah.
time nobody knew how to do it. So
Yeah.
we had to build very different ways of how you do it. So remove all of the complexities
Mhm.
underlying machine learning and deep learning parts, and just
Mhm.
focus on physics. So this is it. Here is a node-based editor. You don't have to code anything, and this is
Yeah.
how you create the model itself. First part. Second part, how you train the model. Another
Yeah.
big set of complexities. So we removed all of that. 3 clicks and deploy the model to be
Yeah.
trained on our platform. That's it. You
Yeah.
just track how the loss function goes down. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the last part is I want to actually do some simulations and visualize stuff. So we
Yeah.
built Simulation Studio, another or a third and last part of the platform itself,
Yeah.
where after it's trained, it has all of the layers for you within it. So we do inference and visualization in near real time. So we
Yeah.
slowly got into what my vision was while I was working on PhD. And we call this whole platform Simil.AI.
Yeah. So So I have some questions because I understand the space a little bit, I would say. Although I have not worked on simulation tools and I am not that deep into simulation, I'm trying to understand as well. So, what was it about the Google paper which you felt like? Was it because the computation increased, right? Since you were doing it in the academia versus, I mean, what was that changed in that Google paper?
Yeah, the thing was that I was using specific mathematical model or algorithm that was much faster than the previous ones, and it
Okay.
also ran on GPUs, so it was optimized for it. So I
Mhm.
could get some speed ups, and I could see like in the end what I developed was a fluid flow through 2D fluid flow where I could change some input parameters. Like let's say there is a river, it's flowing through or around some static circle, and
Yeah.
you see waves forming. And I
Yeah.
could change how speed
Yeah.
or how the velocity of the river is. And I can see the wave forming in real time. And
Yeah.
plus having the visualization and this interaction in virtual reality. So you could actually take or grab the whole simulation and
Yeah.
have some like digital iPad where you
Yeah.
change some variable and you see, okay, this is flowing differently and I can
Yeah.
change it and I see everything in real time.
Yeah.
And then I designed it manually, I would say. Like I had to code this in a
Yeah.
specific way. So I need to understand everything for this to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
And here comes AI model
Uh-huh.
or AI architecture,
Okay.
which I just take some data from previous simulations or from some sensors which track how some physical process evolves over time,
Yeah.
gather that as data and show it into the training procedure and
Yeah.
outcomes, a model that understands physics. So I was completely blown away. Like, okay, what is this? So what source is this?
Yeah.
But this was still like I told you that at the start of the company, I tried to talk to a lot of people and show it to them what they think about this
Yeah.
particular thing, and they were saying like, where is the physics? Where you put the equations? I need to be able to put equations there because I want that model or whatever it is to do
Yeah.
exactly what I tell it to do.
Sorry,
Now,
yeah. Because it's like a new paradigm, right, for them. And they're like
yeah,
looking at it and they're like, okay, what is this, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Very different thinking.
Yeah.
But that was the start of it. Now
Yeah.
we are much down the rabbit hole, I would say, where you can actually um, use physical laws
Yeah.
for the training itself. So I
Yeah.
maybe will talk more about it in later. But yeah, what I was talking about. Paper from DeepMind. This was just like a start,
Okay.
but over time
And
it evolved into.
which year was
Yeah.
this when you saw the paper? Uh,
Sorry,
which year was this? When did you see the paper?
2021.
2021. Okay, okay, got it. Okay. And since then, a lot more has changed in the last, I would say, 3 years. Like it's it's crazy, I would say, right?
In
With
the last
computation.
3 years,
Yeah.
that was like Cambrian explosion, really. For me, when I struggled with talking to people,
Yeah,
convincing them this is important, that they should
yeah,
focus on, talking
yeah,
to VCs, saying
yeah,
like, you should back this up because this will be very important. Nobody was saying like, "Wow, okay, here you have all of the money, go do it," or whatever. Everybody
yeah,
was skeptical.
yeah,
Now everybody understands like this is the future.
yeah. Okay. So now, in a layman's terms, like, what does it like if you were to explain this to like somebody walking on the street, like what are you exactly kind of building? Because I understand this language, but like a common audience will not understand what
Mhm.
you're building. Yeah.
Right, right. So I maybe can talk about the use case we already did and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
shorten it
Yeah.
significantly, so I
Yeah.
don't say a whole story behind it. But we had a client that builds water structures for hydro plants. So
Mhm.
this is very important. You want to use green energy. Hydro
Mhm.
plants generating energy from rivers is one of them. So
Yeah.
when they were designing these water structures, tens of or decades ago, they didn't have tools like we have right now, and they didn't do a lot of simulations. So when now they want to understand what are the inefficiencies there, how to make it better, how to generate more energy or electricity, actually, they need to understand what is happening. So they need
Yeah.
to do those simulations. And
Mhm.
if you want to actually see what will happen if the river is flowing in summer, in winter, in spring, or when there's a flood, when there is a very slow river. So you need to explore a lot of these parameters or things that is happening in that specific process, like river flowing into a hydro plant. So the company spent 4 years trying to just get the simulation to be uh, showing something exactly the same, or at least something that is happening naturally. And
Yes.
using AI tools for doing those
Mhm.
simulations, you can do it in few weeks, and the actual simulation runs in 5 seconds instead of
Mhm.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
So now is the question: I want to then use these AI tools. They
Yeah.
are at the time of when we were building the company, there were none. So
Yeah.
we are building the whole tool set for engineers and technologists who are doing some sort of prototyping in the real world,
Yeah. Yeah.
trying to do or use simulations so they don't have to pay for costly tests or
Yeah.
shorten the time to get the product to market.
Yeah.
And there
Yeah.
are many
That's
industries that need that.
so. It's a very important and a very nice segue that you're talking about. Like, I spent after like the sale, I spent some time thinking about AI and like the later part of last year, and I kind of realized that the biggest use cases are in hard, heavy industries, and which people, which is very hard to first of all break into and
Mhm.
understand it, because you need the resilience and the patience to understand these industries.
Yes.
Fortunately or unfortunately. So I think I have to say, Michael, you are like very early on, and you are probably one of the they say, right, only 0.01% of the world actually gets AI right now. So you're probably in one of those 0.01% who kind of gets where there's a use case and how we, I mean, everybody's looking at a large language model and they're thinking,
Mhm.
oh my God, I can do this, I can do that. But the actual use cases are in these simulation softwares, right? Where
Mhm.
you're looking at, uh, you're, you're trying to make it easier for you to solve physics, chemistry, and all those hard science problems which needs a lot of a combination of different backgrounds, which is understanding physics.
Mhm.
And your background itself is like so unique because you had some AR, VR, and then you went to academia, and then you basically, I mean, not many people do what you're doing,
Mhm.
in simple words. So that's great. So tell me when, and you said you paper in 2021 and you were telling these bunch of VCs, hey, fund this is the future, right? Obviously, nobody is looking at you then, and they're like, okay, what is this guy talking about, right? So I have
Right.
to say, I mean, I think large language models are commodities, right? And you would also agree with me in this, right? But one thing that came out of the of a large language model in 2022, right? That's when a chat GPT was released or whatever. I felt like what came out of it was it brought focus. Everybody started
Mhm.
looking at, because the computation speeds had increased, and media
Yeah.
has built all this hardware, and right. But suddenly, like the entire world focus went on it. All the executives are now looking at it and want to have an AI strategy and figure out what they can do with it, right? So you obviously had a challenge because you started early on, and how did you kind of overcome some of these challenges and explaining to people what you do, and even now, like. hard industrial use cases are very difficult in terms of customer adoption as well, right? They, I mean, we, I mean, as such, like I look into a lot of POCs as well, and lot of companies too, and I try to understand like what technology they are building within this space. So how do you kind of like do that? And you're sitting in Slovakia. Is there like an ecosystem there, or I'm just curious about your journey there? Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that such startup comes from Slovakia because I think this will be the last country that leverages AI-driven simulation. I don't want to be against anybody, but yeah, uh, we got a lot of advice like you should start local. I was never like that. I always thought global, and that's exactly what is happening right now. We couldn't
Yeah.
survive if we didn't look into global markets and just started locally. Nobody would get it here.
Yeah.
But yeah, you mentioned POCs, so proof of concepts. That was a huge thing. I think within our company, I started doing that solo because at the start I was solo founder. Thankfully for me, I was technical founder, so I could do some POCs myself and
Mhm.
kind of build very simple MVP at the
Mhm.
start, but
Yeah.
reading paper like the one from Google DeepMind, that was the first part. Then I had to read like hundreds more and kind of take what I learned from it and build a functional software from it.
Yeah.
Usually that is not straightforward because there's a lot of the times there are no code in paper, nothing not full realization of what they are talking about is put in some GitHub where I
Mhm.
can just follow what they are talking about. So I think I took like 5 months of POCs, building tens of them, and kind of iterating slowly into how the first version of the product could look like.
Mhm.
But then there's a question about like selling this to somebody, and I had some previous experience of building products, but I definitely had to have somebody with me in this journey. So I hired three more co-founders. So we are four now,
Okay.
and we now have like CFO, strategic. Another is a business developer and strategic partnership guy. Another is engineering manager, so he oversees all the engineering. And thanks to that first hires, we could broaden our focus and kind of speed this thing up because we knew very well that we started early, but over time, more and more people and companies would realize that this is very important. So we will have very serious competition in a very short amount of time. So we had to be super fast. And alongside that, building a product team, we had to have a research team. That's what I mentioned previously. And the whole challenge was how we structure this thing of building a research team and a product team and taking people from academia or from where I didn't know at the time. I never managed researchers. I only managed
Yeah.
software engineers and I work with them. So I knew how fast paced this can be. So
Yeah.
from the start, I was focused on having very small focused teams of doers.
Uh-huh.
And when I took some researchers to our company, I had to teach them how to be effective. So that was
Yeah.
the first challenge
Yeah.
to get people from academia and from startups to coexist and build stuff very fast and
Yeah.
iterate extremely fast. So researchers had to forget about writing papers. They
Yeah.
have to research stuff. So they put information into product teams' hands so they can be faster.
Yeah.
And alongside that, there's a huge amount of information flowing through the company. So we have to put in a writing culture
Yeah.
together with AI tools to gather the understanding, to know what to write in the
Yeah.
knowledge base,
Yeah.
and then to be able to ask that knowledge base and get some information as fast as
Yeah.
possible. So we couldn't waste any second actually.
Yeah.
Um, and even though we didn't, we
Yeah.
are still a bit slower.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. Like I never could have imagined that this area would become so competitive over 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is tons of different challenges, from infrastructure challenges, and kind of building or removing these complexities, what I was talking about, from end users and putting them into these layers of
Yeah.
infrastructure that we were building. So yeah, I think a lot of learning from me, how to structure teams, how to
Yeah.
build research and product teams together.
Yeah.
But we kind of try to follow the learnings from OpenAI.
Yeah.
I think they have a very similar team base, so they have
Yeah.
researchers and product teams. They also have to build fast. So I
Yeah.
think following just what the industry does.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so as of now, you are integrating with SI system integrators like the Honeywells and the ABBs of the world, or you're directly working with end customers, and how you kind of, I mean, because if you think about it, the way this industry is structured, right? You have the SIs who have been around for like 40, 50, I don't know, 50 years, over half a century. And then it's like, if you have to get your end customers, it is through them. So how are you kind of doing that?
There are a lot of these um, like middle, not middle companies, but companies that other bigger companies hire to build simulations for them. So they kind of are like subcontractors or whatever it is,
Mhm.
because this is usually like one-time thing. They build some. They are trying to prototype something, some
Yeah.
physical tool, some physical technology, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and they just need to build some simulations around that, showcase that to their engineering team, so they understand what is happening, and then they can iterate forward.
Yeah.
We don't have to sell to bigger companies at first. We could first focus on these on this middle ground, like the smaller companies that use a lot of simulations tools. So having another one is okay for them.
Yeah.
But then we also try to convince low-level engineers that are actually using simulation tools that, hey, this is a new way how you can work, and
Yeah.
you are spending weeks in just setup
Yeah.
phase of the simulation. Now we can do it in, I don't know, 1 day, 2 days. So
Oh,
we were trying to convince them, like, okay, you can spend much less time on that and be very quick and get job done
yeah.
extremely fast. That got us first customers, actually,
Yeah.
and first feedbacks,
Yeah.
I would say. And with that, we iterated forward. So we are still not fully featured like other simulation software, because it's still
Yeah.
very early for us. But bigger companies cannot yet use our software, because there is a lot more validations we need to go through, like building specific models and showcasing how well they behave
Yeah.
before bigger companies jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
It will always happen like that. So they will be late to the party, but they have very specific use cases, and they know why they are doing that. Because in the industry like that, you might have different tolerances. Like, you cannot work with uncertified software or whatever that is, and we will get there over time. But
Yeah.
now it's more like early adopters, companies that are
Yes.
okay with just trying stuff and
Yeah.
seeing what
So,
will happen.
so let me ask you another question, which is, I think at this point, $1 million question. How did you hire these researchers? Because if you think about it, as I already mentioned, 0.01% of the world probably understands this space a little bit right now. Even the VCs who are putting money into this don't understand this space. I can tell you with clarity that. So, how did you like attract talent? Because attracting talent is very difficult, and especially hiring researchers is who understand like a cross section of everything, and who are at the same time agile and understand the startup mentality, and it can't actually keep doing papers, right? It's a real
Mhm.
challenge, and I think I'm glad that you brought it up. How did you kind of navigate? I mean, OpenAI, I mean, they glorify it, but they had a lot of resources, a lot of money went into that company even before it became that big, right?
Mhm.
Because a lot of big money went into that company, but and it was more, they like a scientific pursuit for
Mhm.
but in your case it's not the same. You're sitting in Slovakia, and you I think you've built a pretty good business, or pretty good company, or tools, right? But how do you go about doing that, hiring research? And I understand you yourself, you're a doctor, you're a PhD. you can attract some talent like that, but you have to make these people work for you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, at the time when I started to hire researchers, when we were just developing MVPs and kind of building POCs,
Yeah.
I was thinking it differently. So I don't want to hire scientific machine learning researchers.
Yeah.
There were none at the time, and nobody around us. So I just wanted to hire somebody who would be interested in using or trying to explore AI use cases for simulation.
Hmm.
Vague area, like they.
Yeah.
When I put that vaguely,
Yeah.
a lot of people started to be interested in because they wanted to know more. Researchers usually want to know more, want to dig deeper,
Yeah.
and I knew that is only thing I need. Another
Yeah.
thing,
Hmm.
teaching them how to be extremely fast and work with product team is my job. So that is like I just need to find out over some time. I need to hire somebody and
Yeah.
find out over time how they will behave in this team particularly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Maybe I was lucky because first few hires, all of them stayed until now. They
Yeah,
are still going.
that's amazing.
So
You might have some good
uh,
leadership skills, along with all
not
the
sure.
multifaceted, degrees that you have behind you. But you
Not
might have.
sure. I would say it's just about me looking at my colleagues while I was pursuing my PhD and how they behaved, how they worked, and seeing which ones were better and how, and which ones were just flanking it and didn't care about it. And I try to see the first part in the people who are trying to approach. And we also try to hire remotely. So we are not constrained on having everybody in the office. So I thought like, okay, if there will be somebody from China, from US, from Latin America, and bringing in the best talent from the world will help us as a company. I didn't even get to that because I hired two people from Slovakia. So I was like, fine. There was people just sitting around the corner.
Yeah,
It's much more in terms of how, what I said, teaching them how to work in this fast-paced environment,
yeah,
and
yeah,
doing that has another consequences or how to put it, other things that are beneficial that you get out from it, because when you
Mhm.
train such people, and even if they leave, I can say
Mhm.
like the next thing that they will pursue would be pretty interesting. If I would be investor, I would want to invest or want to be interested in it.
That's a good way to look at it. Very entrepreneurial, I would say. So tell me, how do you define success for what you're building as of now? Like where do you see like the company, or how do you define success for this?
Mhm.
For what you're building.
um, there are multiple parts in the answer, I would say. What I can look into is um, there are different successes for different time windows,
Mhm.
if I may put it like that. So short term, obviously, we are a tiny startup. We are chasing revenue, so we want to get this repeatable success, and that being financial.
Yeah,
And that is first part. We need to succeed in that, and to be able to not just work from venture capital money, but be
yeah,
sustainable over time, which was much harder when we started. Now it's much easier because
yeah,
more and more people and companies get what we are doing, and
yeah,
are more and more they are reaching us instead of we having to reach to them,
yeah,
which is great.
yeah,
And also short term is a success in terms of feature wise realization of things in Simil.AI. So uh, we see what other simulation software has in their feature sets, and we don't yet have it, and we want to
yeah,
get it to be to have feature parity,
yeah,
but underlying infrastructure is very different, so we are much out there.
yeah,
So we bet on this being success over time. Um, the midterm successes would be kind of the realization of the vision of the company.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, we want to build, or we want to kind of empower engineers and technologists to be able to explore a large number of possibilities and what if scenarios
Yeah.
while gathering deep understanding of what they
Yeah.
are building, what they are or producing, or what they are just trying to solve at the time.
Yeah.
We can quantify that long term. So now we are getting to long term success, which is uh, how we can quantify it is by seeing how many businesses are now being able
Yeah.
to actually cut the costs,
Yeah.
to make their products much better, and
Mm-hmm.
we would, all of us would see it or
Mm-hmm.
even experience it. That is something that we want to see in future,
Yeah.
that we would be able to say like, okay, our company was a key differentiator in how other companies who are using our software or using our services or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is now or are now able to build better products or build technologies that were intractable before. So they
Mm-hmm.
would have to spend millions, billions on that. Now
Mm-hmm.
they can spend less money on building such things because they can simulate what is the optimal setup of the materials or technologies or
Yeah.
processes they need to do to
Yeah.
get to a product faster.
Yeah.
That would be huge.
Got it. And what about like other kind of simulation? Would you just stick to physics, or do you want to look at other sciences as well? I mean, physics is the biggest, I would say, but yeah, you could
Mhm.
think about chemistry as well. So
Yeah, so when I started, I was thinking like, oh, we want to solve all the sciences over time. Now and I'm back down from the cloud, back on Earth. I realized that I don't know how much we can grow the startup in over time, or what I want to be able to do is to keep the team smaller, because
yeah.
I enjoy and also I see much more benefits from having smaller teams. But anyway, what I'm saying is that we are trying to focus more into specific verticals. Or before we were building CFD simulation tools, so computational fluid dynamics.
Yeah. Yeah.
We would be able to simulate all of the types of fluids or stuff like that. Now we are trying to dig deeper into bioengineering,
Mhm.
biomedical simulations,
Yeah.
because uh, there is not a lot of equations defined already, and you need
Yeah.
to kind of understand what is happening there because you want to design medication, you want to design different approaches how you can treat people, and that
Yeah.
is very deep, or how to say it, it's very interesting for me and my team right now to focus on solving that specific problem with simulation software.
Hmm.
And that is still a huge vertical, so we need to narrow even more and more down into like what is oncology, it's as or something like that. We are
Yeah.
still on the path figuring that out, but
Yeah.
yeah, definitely in the future there will be a lot of simulation softwares using AI tools and bringing that to market, and there will be for all of the use cases, all of the areas around you, different industries, but I think we will be specifically focusing on some area from that.
Yeah. So I have like another question. I felt like I mean you have like a really good people skills, and I felt like you kind of understand people, right? So as you're working with researchers, and some of them have to work in a fast pace, they can't just keep writing papers. How do you kind of like make them motivated, and like how do you foster innovation and creativity within the small company that you have right now? And there's a lot of innovation, I understand that, but how do you want to like how do you keep them from keep them out from getting bored, right? Because if these are folks who, if they don't work on in fact including me, if I don't work on problems which are interesting to me, I find it very difficult to um, stay around or whatever kind of a thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think for me, especially, it's pretty easy because we have a list of things we need to work on still,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of to-dos that every researcher can just look into and be more overwhelmed instead of like, what will I do today? So just go into this fun, and you can spend next 3 months on that.
Yeah.
But no, like the areas that we are working on, and specifically for researchers, we are very open, or not just open, but letting them decide what will be interesting and what has higher priority, what to work on.
Yeah.
So they the thing what they need to research.
Mhm.
All of them have to understand what product team needs time, but they just
Mhm.
have to understand the what are the priorities from the product team, what are the list of features that we need to ship this month, next month, in 2 3 months, because we have a product roadmap, and we
Yeah.
have these unknown blanks, like product team doesn't know what to do here and there, or what is the optimal way or to doing that, or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
now this question is open for researchers to figure it out, or uh, product team would be open to talk with researchers and ask them.
Mhm.
So researchers are kind of getting the list of questions product team asks them over time.
Yeah.
So they know that, okay, this was something that that specific colleague asked me a week ago, and this he asked 12 times already, and maybe
Yeah.
this is something interesting I should focus on right now, instead of pursuing this very esoteric part of research right now. And
Just
all of the researchers are very okay with not writing papers.
good for
Because
you. Good for you, I would say.
at least here in Slovakia, academia is pushing a lot on writing a lot of research papers in short amount of time, because they get money from it or whatever.
Yeah.
And you just cannot write good papers if you want to churn out, I don't
Yeah.
know, papers per year, or 3 papers
Yeah.
per year.
Yeah.
So here they are actually very much like how they are working, instead of what they was used to at academia.
Yeah. That's amazing. So, so is there like a book or a mentor that has kind of deeply inspired you? Um, uh, just like something which has motivated you to go this route, or for that matter, just the whole. I mean, your whole career journey itself is very, very fascinating. Not a lot of people take this hard path. So, is there somebody who is like deeply inspired you, mentor or a book or anything?
Yeah, there were a lot of books that were some kind of inspirational to me, but one person stands out as much as possible, I would
Yeah.
say, and his name is Brett Victor.
Mhm.
Brett, Victor.
Oh.
He has a website called worrydream.com.
Uh-huh.
He is an ex-Apple employee, and he was one of the people who got in a first version of iPad when nobody knew what that is, and
Yeah.
team their managers told him, like, figure this out, what you can do
Yeah.
with it. He
Yeah.
wrote very interesting um, articles on his website, like Kill Math. And that
Uh-huh.
was very controversial when I read it at the time. It was like 2014. And at the time, I was I was struggling with math. So now, after I finished my PhD, after what I'm involved with,
Yeah.
I'm still thinking about a few years ago when I couldn't just get to understand some mathematical problems. Now
Yeah.
his article comes out, kill math. I was like, oh yes, exactly, kill math, please. But over time, when I read it, I actually realized that no, this is not what he's saying. He's saying kill how we do math right now,
Yeah.
do it differently. And
Yeah.
he completely changed my thinking about human computer interaction, what we are doing for the past 20 years, how we
Yeah.
are still copying the way how you write with pencil on paper to a
Yeah.
digital form.
Yeah.
And it's still not out there how well we can actually leverage these new tools that we possess.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I will end this with if you want to read some very interesting pieces from him,
Yes.
take a look at A Human Representation of Thought and
Okay.
Media for Thinking the Unthinkable. Great
Okay,
two
I'm going to
pieces.
do that. This is something that I do. I like to do as well. I like to read philosophy. I mean, I've read philosophers across time at this point, and then I think I love thinking about how the human mind thinks when I
Mhm.
have some time. That is. So, anyways, so tell me if and so now like everybody wants to do an AI startup, and frankly I would say like I mean my advice to people would be like don't do it because a lot of it doesn't make sense, kind of a thing, unless you can crack hard industries, right? And so tell me like I'm hearing like every other day somebody's starting a new language model, and I'm like, yeah, what are you doing? I mean, it doesn't make sense. You probably get acquired by someone, but it doesn't make sense, right? So tell me, like, what would you tell an entrepreneur who wants to get into this space? And this is my opinion. Whatever I gave was my opinion, but I'm curious about what you think, since you are like solving these problems and you have thought about these problems for a few years now, including while you're doing a PhD. So, just curious what you think as you look at new entrepreneurs coming into this space. And everybody wants to do like a very consumer driven thing. And most of the consumer driven, when I look at it, I feel like it's a feature, not a use case. So,
Mhm.
yeah, what your thoughts are?
Um, well, following up what I read from Brad Victor and how he was thinking about stuff, I wanted to emulate that and be inspired how or take the inspiration into my thinking.
Yeah.
So, kind of removing all of the buzzwords, removing all of the stuff that is not important, getting that away and focusing on person behind the computer, using the tool,
Hmm.
using the model. That
Hmm.
is the most important thing.
Yeah.
In my case, simulation is just a means to an end.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the simulation itself. What
Yeah.
matters is the product, how
Yeah.
you build it, how fast you build it, how less money you spend on building that, how less danger you can have when using simulation tool or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking from the eyes of the customer or
Yeah.
from the eyes of the team in the business itself. Uh, so I think that would be much more important when working on some software, some tools, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But generally, from entrepreneurship standpoint, I
Yeah.
would say that what you can do is to train your entrepreneurshipness.
Yeah.
You are maybe some people are spending time, a lot of time in a bigger company.
Yeah.
They were only employees. Now they want to end their 9 to 5 and just
Yeah.
go into building their own businesses.
Yeah.
That's great, but I think good advice would be to spend some time to just testing grounds while you are working 9 to 5,
Yeah.
having to be able to put bread on your table while you are training your entrepreneurshipness is
Yes.
something I would say. Try to do that first.
Yeah.
Obviously, I made a mistake here because right after high school, I went into freelancing and it was pretty hard.
Yeah.
So then I got back to a company and worked a while, tried to train my entrepreneurshipness. It was much easier after that.
Yeah. So I totally hear you, Mikhail, and I think so I will talk about my uncle. He's not there anymore. He passed last year, and he had a business. I mean, for a huge part of his life, he built a business, and he worked for IBM for the longest time. And he basically only moved to his business after he knew that okay, this is going to work and this is kind of going to make money. I mean, the thing about technology entrepreneurship is like most of the things don't make money at the very onset, and you're hoping that will kind of make money because you're working on things which are like cutting edge kind of a thing, right? So it's like a fine balance, and I totally get it. I told you about my pursuit here, what I'm doing as well, and I totally hear you when you say that, and I'm a firm believer of that too. But it is sometimes very hard. Like you have to work a lot to do both things at the same time, and you should have a lot of interest. And
Yeah.
personally, I feel within the AI space, it's so early on. One can like work in it for some time, train your mind or your genes, as you would say, and then basically take a plunge if they want to take a plunge. I would say for sure.
Mhm.
Anyways, it was really nice talking to you, Mikhail, and I really enjoyed it. I have to say, learning about you, and especially some of the things that you spoke about, how you're managing a team, kind of inspired me quite a bit as I
Mhm.
think about managing teams and thinking about like how to, especially when you're in an environment where you can't pay people that much, but at the same time you have to
Mhm.
figure out how to get the best talent. So I got some tidbits from you, and I'm really grateful for that. So I hope you enjoyed your time too, and thank you for coming on Maker's Bar.
Thank you for having me. I'm super stoked that I was able to actually inspire somebody, and I hope that if I will be able to inspire some of your listeners, that would be
Yeah,
a huge thing for me.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
thank you for
So
having me.
yeah.